British government has insisted that lifting nearly all remaining coronavirus restrictions in England is the right thing to do, despite a surge in cases. The opposition has accused the Prime Minister of unleashing mayhem. The police in Germany say 170 people are still missing after last week's floods. They say they expect many bodies to be found in places where floodwaters have not yet receded. Fires have flared across Russia amid a heat wave tearing through over 1.5 million hectares in Siberia's Yakutia region. The regional capital, Yakutsk, known as the planet's coldest city, was forced to suspend flights due to bad visibility. And the US, Britain and the EU have accused China of being behind cyber attacks on Microsoft Exchange servers later this year. US Secretary of State said the Beijing Security Ministry had encouraged criminal hackers.
The president of an American business group in Hong Kong says U.S. companies should reconsider the risks of operating in the territory. In Tokyo, a court sentenced 2 Americans found guilty of helping former Nissan chief Carlos Ghosn escape to Lebanon while awaiting trial for financial crimes in Japan. Ethiopia says it has nearly completed filling a lake behind a dam on the Blue Nile River. Egypt calls the move a threat to its water supply. And thousands of Muslim pilgrims gather in Saudi Arabia to observe the Hajj.
We begin here in the capital, where athletes are pouring in ahead of the Olympic opening ceremony on Friday. But the coronavirus is casting a long shadow. Another member of South Africa's Olympic delegation has tested positive for the coronavirus. Rugby head coach Neil Powell has gone into 14 days of isolation, meaning the team now faces pre-tournament play without its coach on the sidelines. The news comes on the same day that South Africa's men's soccer team was dealt a major blow. Earlier, 2 of its athletes and another worker were confirmed infected. 21 other athletes and staff were deemed close contacts. Each tested negative for the virus on Sunday, but they've been asked to stay in their rooms. The team is set to compete against Japan in just a few days. Olympic rules say they can do it, provided they meet certain criteria. That includes a negative PCR test on the day of the match. Officials are downplaying concerns about the cases, saying only a small proportion of Olympic arrivals have been infected.
As of yesterday, 22,000 people arrived in Japan. So looking into the positivity rate on COVID among those people in the Olympic community, the number must be nearly 0.1%.
During their first 14 days in Japan, officials say Olympic visitors should only leave official sites for activities they detailed in advance. But some people are getting conflicting advice. Officials are looking into a notice that seems to suggest recent arrivals can go anywhere for up to 15 minutes. They say that guidance is erroneous and should not be followed. Well, one of the top sponsors of the Tokyo Games, Toyota Motors, says it's canceled its games-linked TV commercials in Japan as the coronavirus is spreading rapidly again in the country. The automaker had considered running TV ads featuring athletes, not its products, but it decided to cancel the plan as the Olympics will take place without spectators at most venues. Toyota President Toyoda Akio plans not to attend the Olympic opening ceremony. But to support the Games, the company is providing more than 3,300 vehicles, including fuel cell vehicles and self-driving cars, to be used in the athletes' village. South Korean President Moon Jae-in won't be visiting Japan for the opening ceremony of the Olympics. This comes after talks between the 2 countries over a potential summit meeting in Tokyo. The South Korean government had been making arrangements for the trip and an in-person summit with Japanese Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide. It would have been Moon's first visit to Japan in over 2 years. But the presidential office said in a statement on Monday that talks were not yet at a stage where a summit meeting was warranted. It said the 2 sides had held, quote, meaningful discussions over historical issues and future cooperation. The office said Sports Minister Hwang Hee would attend the opening ceremony instead. Relations between Japan and South Korea are strained due to differences over issues such as wartime labor and those referred to as comfort women. The Olympics had been seen as an opportunity for Moon to make a breakthrough in improving bilateral relations with less than 10 months left in office. Suga told reporters on Monday night that he intends to keep communication channels with South Korea open while also maintaining Japan's position in the issues. He added that he hopes to restore healthy relations between the countries. As Tokyo prepares for the Olympics, officials there confirmed 727 coronavirus infections on Monday. It's a decline from recent four-digit counts, but still more than 200 cases higher than last Monday. This week-on-week increase has been going on for 30 straight days. Numbers last week hit a nearly 6-month high, but dipped after the weekend when many testing facilities were closed. The current spike is putting healthcare workers on edge. This hospital has set aside 50 beds for COVID-19 patients. About 30% of them were occupied a month ago, but that has since risen to 70%.
Most patients are young, but many develop pneumonia. We are seeing more serious cases.
During hot summer days, the doctor says people will also suffer heat stroke, and its symptoms could be confused with COVID-19.
A patient initially diagnosed with heat stroke could spread the coronavirus in the hospital.
Under a fourth state of emergency, Tokyo residents have been asked to avoid non-essential outings and increase teleworking. The antivirus measures will be in effect throughout the upcoming Olympics before expiring on August 22nd. The government's vaccination campaign is underway. More than a third of the country's population have received at least one dose. About 22% are fully vaccinated. Across Japan, on Monday, authorities reported more than 2,300 new cases. South Korea's military says 247 sailors on a naval destroyer deployed in waters off Somalia have tested positive for the coronavirus. The figure accounts for more than 80% of those on board. All 301 crew members were tested for the virus after some were confirmed to be infected. The military's Joint Chiefs of Staff released the results for everyone on board on Monday. The destroyer has been on an anti-piracy mission in the Gulf of Aden since February. Crew members had not been vaccinated when the ship left South Korea. Many of them reportedly spent lots of time on board in what are considered high-risk settings for transmission. The South Korean government says it'll airlift the crew home immediately. Healthcare workers and a replacement team left for the site on Sunday. A Japanese court has handed down prison terms to 2 U.S. citizens who helped former Nissan Motor chairman Carlos Ghosn flee Japan. The Tokyo District Court on Monday sentenced U.S. Army veteran Michael Taylor to 2 years in prison and his son Peter to 1 year and 8 months. Prosecutors say the two hid Ghosn in a large box and smuggled him out of Japan on a private jet in December 2019. Ghosn eventually fled to Lebanon. The former Nissan executive was out on bail at the time of his escape. He was awaiting trial on charges of financial misconduct and aggravated breach of trust. Presiding Judge Nire Hideo said the Taylors had, quote, compromised the criminal justice process with their actions. He added, there's no prospect that Ghosn will stand trial now that so much time has passed since his escape. A forum where Pacific Island nations have been able to discuss regional issues, including climate change, over the past half-century, now finds itself at a crossroads. Internal strife and external pressure in the form of China and America competing for influence have cast a shadow over the group's future. NHK World's Aoki Midori reports.
When Japan's Prime Minister addressed the triennial Pacific Islands Leaders meeting this month, he stressed the importance of the states standing together.
The Pacific region is facing new challenges. It's vital that we unite in the face of growing competition and authoritarianism.
Suga's appeal, however, was made at a time when many of the island's leaders were at odds. A separate regional grouping, the Pacific Islands Forum, represents 18 countries and territories, including Australia and New Zealand. Earlier this year, the group was left divided after a vote for its next Secretary General. The Pacific Island nations consist of 3 subregions: Melanesia, Polynesia, and Micronesia. Traditionally, the post of Secretary General has rotated between them. According to a gentleman's agreement, a Micronesian candidate was tipped to become the next forum leader. But in February, the Micronesian nominee failed to win enough votes. All 5 Micronesian countries later announced they would withdraw from the forum.
We said, we're out, and I think we're out until significant change has been done.
China's growing presence has placed new pressures on the region and, according to some experts, the issue may have played a role in the vote. China has been expanding its influence in the area through substantial aid and investment. In 2019, the Solomon Islands and Kiribati established diplomatic relations with China after severing ties with Taiwan. Meanwhile, 3 of the 5 Micronesian countries maintain diplomatic relations with Taiwan. The strict travel restrictions in the island countries due to the coronavirus pandemic has also resulted in less communication between the member states. The forum's new Secretary General says he believes a compromise will be reached.
I believe that by talking, by sharing, and by respecting each other's views, we can come to a compromise.
An analyst says the July summit with Suga could have been an important opportunity to renew dialogue.
Maybe it can be the start of everyone starting to talk to each other again, because that's the critical first step, is just everyone needs to start talking again.
With the island nations facing unprecedented challenges, the role of a regional forum has never been more important. Aoki Midori, NHK World, Sydney.
It's time now for a check on world weather. The Western Pacific typhoon season is getting busy with a couple of storms threatening land. Our meteorologist Saika Mori has the latest.
Hello there. There are 2 different sizes of rotations over the northwestern Pacific. This one near Hong Kong will likely make its way towards the west. It'll likely affect Guangdong for the next couple of days as a tropical storm. And this one is much bigger, and it's likely to intensify to a typhoon and then drift over the Okinawa region into Thursday at least. And then the center could hit northern Taiwan and also heading towards eastern parts of China. We'll keep you posted on the progress. Meanwhile, there is a possibility of a more heat stroke across northern Japan and western Japan as we go into Tuesday, because temperatures will remain on the high side. On Monday, the high rose to 37 in the Tohoku region. That was the all-time record for the area. Hokkaido saw over 35 degrees. That was the hottest temperature for Hidaka and the hottest temperature in 21 years for Sapporo. The extreme heat will continue to grip parts of Japan, especially western Japan on Tuesday. The highs will be as follows: 37 in Fukushima, Osaka 36. By the way, the rainy season ended in Shikoku on Monday. It was the longest rainy season on record for the region. To avoid heat stroke, stay hydrated and wear light-colored clothing. And it only takes 10 minutes for the inside of a car to heat 10 degrees, so don't leave your pets and kids unattended inside your vehicle. It's a mixed bag in Europe. Catastrophic floods hit Central Europe, including Germany last week, and a wildfire is burning over parts of Spain. Take a look at this footage. Germany and other parts of Europe have been battered by flash floods since last week. Videos posted on social media show extreme damage caused by the floods. More than 150 people have died in Germany. Meanwhile, more than 200 firefighters in Catalonia